I would like to make this video to the young people in our parish who are graduating this year, June 2020. June 2020. This is, as you know, a most unusual year for the world suffering from this pandemic, and it is certainly a very unusual moment of graduation for you. We, I certainly would never have expected to need to be able to speak to you through a video. I would have looked forward to celebrating Mass with you and your parents and your families, grandparents and friends, to be with you in the Eucharist that we still cannot celebrate together for your graduation. And so that is why I say this is a very difficult and very strange time. Nevertheless, this is what is before us. This is certainly what is before you. And I just want to make one comment for all of you as you look forward to a future. You know, when I was your age and when I had my graduation, I was old enough to remember my parents and their generation, my aunts and uncles, and members of our family who were about the same age as my parents. They would always or often refer to the war. They, of course, was speaking about World War II, which was a very horrible and very bad experience for them and for so many millions of people in the world. And I often reflect on that, and I can see that the great thing about my parents and suffering through the war is that they were able to live through it. I think sometimes what the only thing we can do with what comes to us in life, whether it is personal or whether it is something that comes to us as a community or a world community, is simply to ask God to help us live through it. And so for yourself, the graduating class of 2020, you are living through this crisis. It would pass, and someday you will tell your children, like my parents told me, that you had lived through a pandemic, and you will explain to your children and to the young people, you will explain to them what that experience was like. You will say to them, you know, my graduation in 2020, the year of the pandemic, was very different. It was very strange, but we lived through it. I think the prayer that I have for you, and perhaps a prayer that you can offer to God, is to ask the Lord to help us as we live through very different, sometimes a negative experience, such as the pandemic. It will eventually come into our memories. We will go forward because going forward is certainly part of the uh, the graduation experience, and we will always say we, with the grace of God, lived through it. And so, congratulations to all the young people of our parish on their graduation.